So we're back on FE build number 1 again, and the saga continues. So let's slide on back here to the back. This is where we're working today. So this is the swapped in Vic suspension with the 8.8 with disc brakes on it, which was once again, you know, available stuff done in the hot rod fashion. We got it and it works and it'll do the job, so we're gonna go ahead and use it and save some money. But the top arms are too short and the pinion angle is a little too great down here. So that was why I was in the process of making these adjustable arms. Okay, so we're back on FE project number 1, but we're working on the rear suspension. And after determining that our little 4-link tubes were too long the other day, I got some shorter ones. So now we got to start over again with the tapping, because this coating gets all down in the threads and won't let your heim joint start to screw in. So the last thing you want to do is mess these threads up. So I'll run this down with my fingers. So you got to be careful when you're doing this, because these threads are actually sharp, especially on these import taps, and they're just tightened up. So I'm going to go ahead, and these are actually tapping pliers. They fit this square up here. And I'm going to run this all the way through, so that way we got nice clean threads. And I'm going to have to do this to both ends. Now the standard end did thread a little better, and I think when they cut the threads in these tubes they were using a dull, and I may have mentioned this in the previous video, I'm pretty sure they were using a dull tap, because it kind of egged the threads a little bit. But it's always a good idea, even on new parts, take your taps and run them. When it starts to tighten up like that, back off. Don't push it on through. Back it up. And that little bit of trash and stuff you got in there will fall out. And basically what I'm cutting out is that powder coat. Because it looks like when they sprayed it, they actually sprayed it down in the tubes and then they cooked it. And see, the tap will kind of self-clean itself, and then you can start going back down again. So here's why we're going to the adjustables, besides the fact of just being able to adjust things. And the body is off, but allowing for the fact that this is a short bed and kind of the amount of fuel capacity it's going to have and all, it's going to push this pinion angle down some more as weight gets loaded onto this chassis. And right now, it's sitting at about 7 degrees down angle. We're going to bring it back up to 4.5. And the adjustable arms are going to allow us to do that by simply pushing the top of the rear end backwards, or top of the differential backwards. This will go this way. And as you can see, the stock arms from the Vic are absolutely non-adjustable, though very durable and decent for what we're doing. They're not exactly what we need for this application. And we don't want to have to take all this nice structural back loose to move it. So, and there's the sway bar and the coilovers. Okay, so we got to open this hole up on both sides of this to 9/16 so that the bolts will go through. But the bigger issue, not that it's a huge thing, is up front here. If you'll notice, this is considerably narrower. This is only about 1 inch, and the actual space in here in the chassis is 2 3/8. And the other problem is this heim joint's got a 3/4 inch hole in it instead of a 1/2 inch hole. So I'm gonna have to make a bushing to go in there. So that'll be the next installment. Please excuse the little bit of blur in this upcoming clip. I had some weld burr or grind sparks get into one of my safety lenses on my camera, and I didn't catch it. And it was making the autofocus focus far away instead of up close. And I didn't notice it because I didn't look at the footage while we were shooting, trying to get done. And I've taken care of it since then. But I didn't want to lose this clip. And I couldn't redo it since we'd already put the arms on the truck. So this is another one of those times where you have to just kind of think about it for a minute. Here's our bolt. So we need to make the hole smaller. And we need to space here. Now, I maybe could get a left-hand thread heim joint to meet these requirements, but it's probably expensive, and I'll do some research on that. But in the meantime, we can just make a bushing to go in here and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Make a bushing that's our spacer and our bushing. And that solves our problem. Welcome to the channel. So we're back to working on FE build number 1, and today we're back to the rear suspension. So I've had to make a couple of little small design changes here. Here's our little arms, a la carte arms. The 3/4 inch hole is too big for our bolts, so I got some spacer bushings, blah. Tried to say that 3 times fast. And I found out that our arms are not quite as short as I had hoped they would be, so I got a couple options here. I could cut off some of the threaded part, but I don't want to mess up the nice coating that's on them any more than we already have where this one slipped in the vise, because we can paint that back, of course. But what I'm going to do is back here on the clevis end, I'm going to take the lock nut out and we'll just run it down tight against the bolt here, and that'll leave this in for adjustment. So you won't be able to twist to do your quickie adjusting, but you will have to take the bolt out and spin this out. But for once we get this truck set up, that won't be a big deal. And if we really wanted to, we could cut, say, 1/2 inch or so off each end of the tube here. That'll still give us over 1 inch of thread, and we could put the nut back. So after a little careful measuring, I determined that I can keep the lock nuts in here. Got my little spacers in. Had to do a little filing on the end of them to get it to fit. So if all goes well, I should be able to stick this down here, and it's going to go. There we go. We're in. Now I've already matched this bar and the other bar, so they're the same length. All I got to do now is get the bolts back in it. We've got the top done. We got the pinion set at about a 4.5 degree angle. As the truck goes on it and as the bed goes on and the truck goes back together, that angle may change a little bit, and then all we got to do is reach in here and get a bars to twist to make up for it. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. After he gets it on the road, we'll see if it's wearing the tires. We'll take a few measurements, make sure everything's still square left, right, and it should be good to go for 150, 200,000 miles of spirited driving fun. Okay, so I've already got the back bolt in, and if you'll notice, it'll move. I got a soft-jawed hammer, so you want to use that. That way you're not damaging anything. And just tap it lightly, and it'll come on through. And as you can see the way it's bouncing, it's hitting over here. So what I'm going to have to do, and as everything's nice and loose, I'm about 1/3 of a hole off. So I'm going to have to bring the rear end forward a little bit. So what I may need to do is put the other one in place and twist it back some to help this line up. And as I mentioned earlier, then we still need to make sure we're square to the back of the truck. But with the bed off, that's very easily done. All right, let me see how close I got it. Oh, there you go. That's how we need it to do. That makes life easy. It makes you feel like you did a good job when things like that happen. So here it is with the top arms installed, all ready to go. Pinion angle set at 4.5. Later we'll make a bottom set for it and get rid of those factory Crown Vic lower arms. But for right now, this will give us the adjustability we need. And we already checked the left-right clearance. And that was just a matter of a little measuring with the straight edge from the inside of the tire to the chassis at the same point on each side. 7.25 each side in the front, 7.5 each side in the back, because the chassis does taper back this way as you go towards the back of the truck. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Next time we'll get back onto the power steering lines up on the front of the truck, and then the build can continue. So as always, practice your skills, learn a new one. Either way, turn them into craftsmanship. You never know how far they'll take you. Until next time, this has been Fab Race Mod Repeat. Have a great day.